Well, welcome back to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. And I'm glad today to have our old friend Bob Ramsey on. St. Louis University Billikens are ranked 24th in the nation now. They've won 1 million games, only one loss so far for the Billikens, and the Hall of Famer is with us. Bob, does it ever get weird for people to call you a Hall of Famer?
Very, very weird. You get these awards and you're just like stunned because you're kind of just going to work every day and doing your thing. It's really gratifying, unbelievably humbling, and very weird. It doesn't feel real.
I hear you. When you think Hall of Famer, you think about those guys we idolized here in St. Louis growing up, right? You think of Harry Carey, you think of Jack Buck. You don't think of Bob and Harry,
How could that be? We're just a couple of guys who love sports.
That's right. 40th year behind the Billiken play-by-play microphone. That has got to be fun. And that new guy that you've worked in just over the last 35 years, Earl Austin, how's he working out?
I think he's going to be fine. We're still in that, we're still in that period where we got to figure it out. No, I always tell people I may be the heart of the broadcast, but Earl is clearly the brains. Without Earl, it wouldn't work. He's absolutely the best.
Love Earl Austin. Love your guys' interplay, your relationship. You can feel it through the radio, your respect, your affection for each other and for the program. I mean, that's magical when broadcasters can throw that out through the airwaves without having to overdo it. You're not selling it to me every night. I feel it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Earl first started as kind of a fill-in guy. And but from and I knew Earl from being the high school sports guru.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
And he was great because we worked at that first iteration of all sports radio together. And so I knew him, but didn't really interact a lot. And those first games he did, I just went, oh, okay, this is the guy.
Yeah.
This is how analysis is supposed to sound. Moreover, I would tell anybody over the last 35 years with Earl, if ever Earl and I are talking over each other, it's my fault. Mm-hmm. He takes special pride in making sure his analysis, his commentary fits in with the flow. There aren't a lot of people because we don't think of it. Mm-hmm. I'm on the radio. Here's my opinion. Here's what I think. And we go. He's always made a point to say, I'm going to make this fit. I'm going to make it seamless. So it's a really nice broadcast to listen to.
Well, you guys do a great job, and you've been doing it forever. And the Billiken fans, just appreciate the two of you. And candid would be an understatement. Both of you are willing to say it. You're the homers for sure. You're homers, but you're going to tell me if they're playing bad, and you're gonna be honest. And I think that also is, super important for the fans to really be able to appreciate the broadcast.
Yeah. If you hear me go, oh boy, then things aren't going according to the script.
I was listening to the end of the game the other night when they survived, and you guys weren't exactly throwing bouquets the Billiken direction.
Well, and also you start to, even though it hasn't been 2 full seasons, you start to anticipate and understand what Coach Josh Schertz is going to do and how he feels about things. He's so open and so honest. From talking to him, he'll tell you anything. Yeah. He'll give you his thoughts. He'll tell you why. So you could just see not only as the team broadcaster sitting there feeling how things aren't going right, knowing how fans would feel listening to it, but also knowing what Coach Schertz, just really in anticipation of what he was going to say and why he feels the way he feels. So anticipating all those things sort of sets the tone for us because it's not our program. It's Coach Schertz's program. It's the university's program. It's the fans' program. We're just the conduit. But if you can get a feel for things, and one of the things we take pride on is if you're listening, we feel like Harry Schroeder is sitting right next to us. And what would he be seeing, feeling, and saying if he were sitting next to us? And so we take a little pride in that. That's what we try to do. And so if things are going great, hooray for our team. If things are going bad, oh boy, who are these guys? You know, and so
Yeah,
and so I think that's part of the honesty. I know it's not always typical, but I think you can, as a team broadcaster, um, want your team to win and still be honest. And I
sure.
think that's the goal.
A little bit of loading liquor trucks at Paramount Liquor approach to the broadcast, right? Like I'm just here. I'm working. I'm doing my job to get to have the team win.
Well, you're going back in ancient history.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, it was one of my jobs during school, Christmas time, summers, even a year or so out of college, working full time at Paramount Liquor. It's no longer around. It was absorbed by other companies, but it was a great distributor in St. Louis and throughout the state of Missouri, and working nights, loading trucks, loading conveyor belts for stuff to go on the trucks. It was a great job. But to your point, understanding being organized, understanding you're on a time frame and being prepared and all those things. And I kind of, while I may outwardly be kind of messy, to me, it's organized mess. and so I think I learned a lot about organization preparation from working a real job, because what we do isn't real, but working a real job and understanding if you make mistakes, you got to fix them. There are consequences and all those sorts of things.
I wrote a story for a different website the other day saying the Billikens, this Billiken edition of the Billiken basketball program, is potentially one of the best ever. Maybe not the 1948 team with Ed McCauley, but this has got to be a team, if they finish the way we think they'll finish, one of the top teams that's ever been there. I might be blowing too much smoke too early in the season. But I wonder how, in your 40 years, you look at this team and see how they measure up against some of the great teams you've broadcast for.
Yeah, it's a great question. And we think and talk about that stuff off the air all the time. And you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, because we've seen some great teams, great coaches, great players. So let's put a little context. When I say ever, I kind of consider it since Rich Grauer resurrected the program. Was that 81 or 2?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the context. And so in that period of time, let's call it 45 years, it remains to be seen if it's the best ever. But here are two things I'm very confident in saying. It is the deepest team ever, and it is the most athletic team ever. I'm very comfortable saying those two things. Again, best, we'll see. Even if you tie one of Spoon's teams to go to 20-1, or if you go even better than that, still the conference tournament matters to make fair comparisons. And then if you're fortunate enough to play in postseason beyond your own conference tournament, those things will matter. Because in my time, we've never, by the way, as an aside, one of my goals, one of my dreams is, can we just get to the second weekend once before I'm done? And so we've had a number of teams in my time get, win and then lose, win and then lose. So can you at least equal that with all the other things you've done? And if you surpass it, then we've got a real conversation.
Am I off base? I've been around Coach Schertz quite a bit. Am I off base? He very different, but in a lot of ways similar to Majerus. How would you compare the two of them in the way that they think? They're both unbelievably brilliant. But compare, contrast maybe Coach Majerus and Coach Schertz.
It makes you validate my opinion by your opinion. I think I always describe to people, to me, Coach Schertz is the perfect blend of Majerus and Spoonhour. In fact, I don't know if you can see it. You can't see it. I'm wearing one of my old Spoonball T-shirts. But in that, the analytics and really getting a feel for what you do and why you do it. And then the marvelous talent, skill, and maybe it was all natural of Charlie Spoonhour being able to relate to people, not just the homespun stuff that we all loved and embraced. The whole town loved Charlie and embraced him, but the way he dealt with people, and in particular, in this case, his players. And so if you can take those analytics and those people skills and put them together, that's Josh Schertz. Am I saying he's better than either of those? No. Again, time will tell. It's certainly possible. But at this point, I think I just love that blend talking to him. I would tell folks who love talk radio, be sure and listen to Billiken postgame shows. Historically, postgame shows with the coach, no matter who it is, 5 minutes, maybe 7. We've gone close to a half hour a couple times, which I know makes the print media crazy because they're waiting for coach to come out. But he's so compelling, so interesting, and even entertaining that it's must-listen radio on KMOX.
Well, listen, I'm one of those guys sometimes in the back room waiting for that guy to get there.
Apologize.
I'm ticked off, right? That said, then he takes forever with us.
Yeah.
Like he comes and does the exact same thing all over again because he's just willing and he's brilliant. And he's got so much to say. He's an amazing guy. I want to take you to the A10. Bob, scrolling across the bottom of the screen, I don't know if you can see it. I've got the 9 guys, I think the top 9 scoring guys in the Billiken program. You said deep. This is a deep, deep team. I mean, he just runs guys out there and they're all going to contribute. Talk about his use of those 9, more than 9, but those 9 that primarily play. It's practically magical to see how it all plays out. The other night, it didn't work out very well, but typically it does.
Yeah, it really does. And, you know, you've actually known Coach several years longer than I have by you know, your great coverage in the Valley. And he's probably told you, and at least he told me last year, that he was a guy, hey, pretty traditional, which is what you don't usually say about Coach Schertz.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty traditional in player usage. In a perfect world for him then was, 7, maybe 8 guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I want to go to war with. But as his philosophy of coaching continues to evolve, he kind of saw where it was going, where the game was going, and how he wanted to adapt to the game. Now, you still have to have the personnel. I'm going to play 9 or 10. Well, if you don't have 9 or 10 players,
can't do it.
It's ridiculous, right? And so they went out in the portal and in high school recruiting to put together a group that could absolutely do that. He realized less would be more for Robbie, meaning not that if he's out there too much, it hurts the team. No, it'll help him be good every minute he's out there. And it takes a special group of players in this NIL transfer portal era. How many guys are willing to transfer to you and say, yeah, I'm going to play less. I'm happy with it. That's a difficult sell. But he got a guy from Boston College and Virginia and St. John's and Xavier, all, you know, higher level leagues that came down. And then maybe the most unheralded and one of the key guys, the glue guy, Quentin Jones from Northern Illinois. So all of them are contributing. They went out and find the guys, not only that had the talent, but had the personality and mentality to be able to fit what he had a vision for.
I grabbed these off my shelf. These are my Robbie Avila glasses from Indiana State.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they gave him out one game. He is such a unique player. And you mentioned he's playing fewer minutes and still highly efficient.
Yeah.
I don't know that he has an NBA game, but I know he's an amazing college basketball player. Tell the folks that maybe haven't seen a ton of Robbie Avila just what makes him tick.
Well, I don't know what makes him tick because he's a unicorn. He is a different cat. Here are my observations after a year and a half. Maybe the smartest player the Billikens have ever had and I've ever seen or I've ever been associated with. Really, really smart. And whenever he's done playing, maybe after this year, but whenever he's done, he's going to make somebody an unbelievable coach. We often say, I probably said it 1,000 times in my career, oh, Harry Schroeder's like a coach on the floor. This guy really is. He'll call plays. He'll change plays. He'll look at Schertz and maybe give him a look. I've seen him do it a couple of times. Coach is trying to get signals in. I've seen Robbie in the game look over at Schertz and go, I got this, and get it going. He is truly, and I got to be careful saying that in the future, because now I see what it really means when the guy is a coach on the floor. Avila is that. Moreover, coach has always said, he probably told you this many times, it takes a year plus for most players to kind of figure out what Coach Schertz wants in his system. Well, Robbie is out there, and he, I think, accelerates that time frame
for everybody,
for his teammates. Exactly right, because I've been going to practice since the beginning of June, and he is always out there, not being a cheerleader, which is great, not being a rah-rah guy and a vocal guy, which is great, but out there teaching his teammates. Nobody understands the system second to Coach Schertz than Robbie knows the system. And being an integral part of that, kind of seeing it mesh, it's really, really fun to watch. And then you see the skill. At 6'10", he's got point guard skills, not maybe the handle, but the vision, which is probably the most important part of being a great point guard, the vision. He sees everybody and the cuts and the movement on the floor before it's happening, usually. He's just, well, it'll be, when he's done here, 2 seasons. Again, I say ever, meaning since Crowder took over, he's the best. And Earl and I talk about this stuff all the time. Who's your all-time Billiken 5, blah, blah, blah. He's the center, period, no discussion.
Amazing player. I want to talk about the A-10 just a little bit.
Yeah.
Billikens haven't played Dayton. They haven't played George Mason. Those got to be the 2 teams that you're most concerned about or respect the most in the league, perhaps. Just talk about, kind of size up the Atlantic 10 for us.
Yeah, all year long, I just was telling people, I think it's the usual suspect, and I included Loyola. Well, they are not the same team.
No.
They've had 1 or 2 good wins, sort of like playing like they played the last 2 years. And you wonder, is this the kind of team that could catch fire in February? So you don't want to overlook them. But right now, they're at the bottom. I said until further notice, the league championship goes through VCU and Dayton. The Bills, for the first time ever, go to Richmond and beat VCU. Really remarkable game. It doesn't mean VCU is not a contender. They are a contender. They've got a little work to do. Dayton just lost, and you wonder, is that probably a hiccup? I think probably it is. And then you got George Mason. When they've got an old school arena built before there were a lot of construction codes, I guess, because the seats are real steep for old timers like us. You remember how steep the seats were at the old arena, the Oakland Avenue Arena. It's like that. When crowds get in there, they're right on top of you. They have one of the best 2 or 3 bands in the country that get that place really rocking. And that stuff, I used to think, that stuff doesn't matter. The crowd doesn't matter. It does matter. And so I expect going to George Mason in a couple of weeks, it's going to be a really hard place to play. So I think those are the known factors. What you don't know, and what you really have to be prepared for, if you expect to win a championship, you can't let games like Duquesne, which you almost frittered away, or tomorrow night, St. Bonaventure, a team that is coached by one of the best in the league, and Mark Schmidt. Those are the ones you got to grab if you're going to be a champion. And then you come in prepared to give it your best shot against Mason and Dayton, and another game against VCU, and even somebody like Lloyd. You got to win all these other ones. And then, respecting the high level of those other opponents, you go in prepared and see what happens.
The Billikens off to this great start. Recently, politicians have gotten involved. That's always a good thing. When Mr. Keogh has been campaigning for the Billikens to head to the Big East. I don't know what a politician has to say about all of that, but do you think not way back in the background, but in the background a little bit, that's still the longing of St. Louis University higher ups?
I don't want to speak for them, A, because they're my boss, but B, because I'm not really sure. I think most programs who have high goals, and every program should be setting high goals for themselves, want to try and climb as high as you can. The Atlantic 10 is really good. Having said that, I can remember going back to when I first started here with Rich Grauer and working with Mike Claiborne, and we'd talk with Rich Grauer and say, wouldn't it be great if you could elevate and go to, in those days, because the Big East was big then with football and, Syracuse and all those guys, didn't even think of that really fitting. But we said, what if you had an all Catholic conference? Yep. Wouldn't that be a great conference? So this is back in the late 80s. Mm-hmm. Then 10 or 15 years later, maybe 20 years later, the Big East split. The football teams left. And then to me, I'm going, with no disrespect to Conference USA or the Great Midwest or wherever we've been in the past, that felt like the perfect fit. The Atlantic 10 is close. A number of Catholic schools there. It's really close. Can the Big East absorb one, hopefully SLU, or several others? In an era of monster conferences, the Big East only has 11 schools.
Right.
Could they go to 12, 14, 15, 16 teams with that same concept? You could. They've got to decide, does it make our brand better? And that's a hard one to answer. And while if you told me, hey, you're going to be in the Atlantic 10 forever, okay. But if you say, would you like to play in the Big East and be Power 4 adjacent, which the Big East is? I sometimes call them Power 5 because they're right there.
I do too.
They're certainly, even though none of the schools have real football, big time FBS football, they're big time. They got big budgets. Yeah. Probably the best way. Well, you can't call so-and-so a mid-major. I think you go by budgets, really. And I think that's where the Big East is. And would it be great? And would it be great for Dayton and a couple of others to go there too? I would say yes. If the president made me the sports czar and took over, I would make that move and probably end up with at least 14 Big East teams, maybe a couple more.
So what is more likely? Tomorrow at the St. Bonaventure game, you will say that an official made a bad call, or that you and Earl will end up going on American Idol after watching you sing in the car the other day?
I would tell you that we ruined any possible chance of going on Idol or America's Got Talent, or, we're more likely to go on a Benny Hill show or something like that, the Two Stooges we are. So, yeah, that was funny. So those who don't know, Earl posted it on X and probably everywhere else. We're driving from Pittsburgh to Olean, New York. You can't fly. It's one of those places you can't get there from here. And we've got, and there's going to be a snowstorm all across the country, but really big here with lake effect snow. For those who don't know, Olean is due south of Buffalo, and lake effect snow affects this area. So it wasn't bad enough that I was white knuckling, but the interstate was down to one lane. You really got to pay attention. A lot of traffic because you're going 35, 40 miles an hour. And we got the radio on, and Earl starts singing along. Then all of a sudden, I didn't realize he was on the phone recording, and he puts it in my face. And you don't want to be the guy, get that out of my face. Although I would be lying if I say that didn't occur to me. But I said, okay, I'll play along. And then once you get into it, it was kind of fun. Earl is just the best, and he gets the feel for things. And so it's on the road with Rammer and Earl.
It was amazing. Before I let you go, I want to talk about Earl for just a minute. You mentioned him being like a high school basketball guru around here in St. Louis. Earl is a guy that's going to go to the smallest high school gym in St. Louis. He's going to go to the big power, Vashon or DeSmet or CBC or something. He's going to be at those games. He's going to be at state tournament games, girls games, guys games. And he's a Hall of Famer like yourself at St. Louis U and Lindenwood. And just the nicest guy and welcoming to everybody that wants to come and talk to him and everybody that wants to get his opinion. He's quite an amazing guy. Just brag about Earl for another minute or so before I let you go.
Well, aside from the encyclopedic knowledge, and I've always, I wondered, as my recall gets slower and slower, the information's in there, but trying to find it and pull it out is a real struggle.
The files are difficult sometimes.
That's exactly right. So, but I would say if I was going to put together a dream team of a team to go to a trivia night, Earl's absolutely the guy that's got to be on there. Not just for sports, and maybe not for sports. I maybe get Carricker and Claiborne and a couple of others. They're on the dream team too. Earl's knowledge of music and film and sports, he's really amazing. So it's so much fun to be around him. But what makes him Earl is not the knowledge, but his big heart and his humility and his desire to promote the game he loves and all these young athletes that he adores, and to put them in a spotlight and to show people what's happening, not only in St. Louis, but all around the region with amateur athletics. It's really, he's a great story. And he is one of the great contributors to amateur sports in the St. Louis area just ever. Nobody's done what he's done. He was telling me a story about a player, I don't need to name him, in a local university, who this young lady had agreed to go to a big program. The coach left there, and they just didn't know if they wanted the parents to go there. And Earl just called the family and said, "Hey, you got to go here." He goes, "It's a no-brainer. You live 30 minutes from the university. Go here, and then let the chips fall where they may." And so it's not just reporting, but he's in it.
Yep.
His scouting stuff, and he's just a remarkable, great guy.
I lied. I have one more question. Tell people that don't know kind of the Kellen Thames saga over the last year or so, all the things he's had to go through and all the different transitions to be the guy that he is today. The coach Church says he's the guy that affects winning maybe more than anybody else on the team. Well,
I think Kellen, minute for minute, is the best player in the league. And you can kind of compute the stats minute for minute, but it's more than that. It's the electric things he does and changes the game. The story, last year, he couldn't get out on the floor, really unheard of body cramps. We were told off the record, unofficially, that he had a very, very serious illness. And I'll be honest, when we got the news, Earl and I wept. It was because we loved the kid so much. You'd feel that way about any person, but because Kellen, being a local guy, went to my high school, and we wept because it was a really dark diagnosis and prognosis. Turns out it was a misdiagnosis. Thank God.
Wow.
And that the family stayed with it and realized, and this is my term, I'm not being a medical guy and not having talked to his doctors, but I just call it a severe electrolyte issue. And to keep fluids in and electrolytes and all the minerals and things you need to keep going. And thank goodness they figured it out for his quality of life for the rest of his life, which will hopefully be a long, long one.
Right.
And then in the short term, to let him be the player he can be. And so to kind of go on that emotional roller coaster ride as an outsider and see what has happened. And he, as you know from talking to him, he's just a remarkable young man. He's great to be around. And his basketball IQ is so high. And then what he can do on the floor. Every night, he's going to do a couple of things that just make you go, wow, I don't believe what I just saw. And typically it's a steal and a dunk, windmill dunks, behind the head, just, doing things you don't think a person can do. And Kellen's just great, but his personality and his family and a part of the community kind of surpasses the basketball stuff.
Appreciate your time. I kept you way too long.
No, it's okay.
Have a great broadcast tomorrow. And I really, maybe Sweet 16 this year. Let's go for that.
Let's just get me once to the second weekend and I'll be happy. Then the rest of my career, it doesn't matter. Second weekend or bust.
There you go. That's Bob Ramsey, the play-by-play broadcaster of the St. Louis University Billiken basketball team. They're having a great, great year. Bob, thanks for your time.
You bet.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember, since you've been there, make it a better place. We'll see you again real soon.